Welcome to this edition of In-Depth Alaska. I'm Tracy Sinclair. Mayor-elect Suzanne LaFrance has named Deputy Chief Sean Case as her new Chief of Police for the Anchorage Police Department. Jonson Kuhn, our investigative reporter, spoke with Deputy Chief Case about how he's feeling with this announcement. Here is that conversation.
So first off, I've got some specific questions, but I'm really kind of hoping to just open it up to let you sort of explain how you feel about taking this new position on.
It's a great opportunity. I've been with the Anchorage Police Department for 23 years, and I've done a lot with the department. I'm very connected to the community. This is my home, and it's been my home most of the life. So being able to lead a great department with really excellent employees that we have, both our police officers as well as our professional staff, it's just a great opportunity. I'm really honored for the opportunity.
Just curious, when was this brought to your attention?
When was I offered the job?
Yeah.
I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but it's been a short while.
Okay. And with regards to Chief Designee Cross, are there intentions of keeping her on in a capacity, and have there been conversations as far as whether or not she's accepted any of those positions offered? Or
I actually don't know the current status. I will say that Chief Cross has done an excellent job. She's worked for the police department for over 26 years. She was an excellent detective. Her last job before this last 2 months was as the captain of detectives. I was part of promoting her for that position. That is an area of the department that she knows inside and out. She has a lot of experience, and she's had an excellent career. And I say, if she doesn't stay with the department, it means a lot to the department that she was able to step in these last 2 months. It was a particularly troubling time. There's a lot of challenges, and so she had a tough job the last couple months for sure.
Absolutely. No, and just one other question along those lines. Concerning diversity and moving forward with working with organizations such as like the Black Caucus, say, for instance, are there any concerns on your end with maintaining those relationships moving forward based on whether or not they feel like there was a quick change for Cross, to put it lightly?
I've had a long-standing relationship with a lot of those organizations. That's not something that starts today. I have a meeting later on today, and then that very subject. So that's important to me. It's been important to me for a long time. And some of the efforts as I was a captain and deputy chief has really been a lot of outreach, try to diversify the police department, not only increase the number of applicants and employees from our community of color, but also increasing females within the department as well. So that will be a high priority moving forward.
Absolutely. Now, within LaFrance's letter, she spoke about significant public safety challenges the city's facing right now. In your opinion, what do you feel those challenges are?
Well, I think there's some real obvious ones. I think the homeless issues that we have been tackled with and troubled with over the last several years. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think the plan that we have moving forward is going to really positively impact that, and the police department has a role to play in that. The victimization that we see within our homeless community is far too high, and the police play a role in that. We also see criminal activity. We want to also play a role in that, but we also have added elements to the department that can increase connection to resources. So when you're talking about mental health issues that we see, and when you're talking about substance abuse and misuse issues, the police department has a role to play in that, to connect to resources. So it's not just about crime victims and crimes that are being occurred. It's a much, much broader approach. And I think that contribution that the police department is going to make to the overall response to homelessness is going to have a significant impact. We also see that our violent crime, we'd love to see that go down. We've had high violent crime numbers in Anchorage and in the state really for quite some time. And so that's also going to be a focus. And then of course, I think, I'd have my head in the sand if I wasn't, thinking about some of the obvious questions that have come up recently with the 4 officer-involved shootings and releasing body cam footage and those types of issues. So those are all public safety concerns that we're going to be addressing very quickly.
Yeah, and I would imagine there's limits on what you can kind of get into with that, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask regarding that policy. Chief Designee Cross was very adamant about maintaining that position of not releasing footage prior to an investigation's end. However, we've got many examples of major cities that do release footage prior to an investigation's conclusion. What do you feel moving forward is going to be your position on that? And if it is to maintain that same position, what do you feel makes Anchorage, say, different from other major cities dealing with similar issues?
What I can tell you is we are already drafting some modifications to the current policy that we have. We're reviewing it for legal obstacles and making sure that it's legally sound. But we are making modifications as we speak to that policy that will be available for public release very, very shortly. And there are a lot of interested parties throughout Anchorage that want to have a say in that, and those voices need to be heard, and we'll be meeting with those folks. So I won't give you insight in exactly where we're going to stand on it, but I can tell you that I have a little bit different perspective. If we're going to say that we can't release something, we're going to be specific as to why. The public at least needs to have a good reason as to why, or something that we articulate as to why that we're not going to be releasing video footage.
Certainly. No, that's great. That's a great point. A little more clarification and transparency. I think the public can certainly appreciate that. Regarding LaFrance herself, I'm just curious if you're able to kind of speak to the conversations you've had with her so far, and what sort of relationship you anticipate having with her moving forward in terms of like oversight specifically.
Yeah, I've met with the mayor a lot, and I believe in the vision that she has for the municipality, and the vision that I have for the police department goes hand in hand. And so I'm very comfortable that moving forward, we're going to be in complete alignment on both Anchorage as a whole and just as the police department, how it fits into that bigger picture. And she's given me a great opportunity, and we're certainly gonna make her proud.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you feel? I mean, in those conversations, I realize there's limits to what you can divulge. But like, are you under the impression that she's really sort of putting her trust in you to kind of open things up and take charge, or is she giving you more of a strict sort of guideline to follow?
Well, let me kind of answer that in a roundabout way, but
Sure.
So I believe that policing is about taking the opportunity to connect with the community, and that is by far the number one objective while I'll be chief of police. And I've shared that goal and that vision with the mayor, and that means you're going to see more interaction through social media. You're going to see more interaction through mainstream media. You're going to see more public interaction with the police department, with myself, and anywhere I go, the mayor is always welcome to come, and I imagine that she's going to do some of these things with me as well. So I think we share, that vision of having a much more open relationship with the public. We've got one of the greatest communities of police in this country. I get to spend a lot of time going out of Alaska and working with other police departments, and one of the things that I always bring up is that we're so blessed to have a community like we do here in Anchorage. They're supportive, and we need to have as best relationship as we can, and you're going to see that today in this conversation that I have with you, and you're going to continue to see that moving forward. And I want that to be a high expectation for the department. I really do expect the public to see this type of interaction more frequently.
Okay. Just one other question I wanted to close with here. It might be kind of tough given that you've been with law enforcement for 23 plus years, but when you reflect on that time, what parts of that do you feel you're most proud of as it pertains to Anchorage specifically?
I'll go with recency. So there's a lot.
Sure.
There are so many things that have gone on through, not only the 23 years here, but a couple of previous years with another department. So over 25 years total in law enforcement. And I think one of the recent things that I'm most proud of is we've put together mental health clinicians, and we paired them with police officers for our mobile intervention team. And that's a huge accomplishment for the police department because, when we respond to people in crisis, we had very limited things that we could do if you go back 3 or 4 years ago. Really all we could do is a Title 47 hold and take them to Providence Hospital. And that's not acceptable. And there is an alternative if they committed a crime is to put them in jail. And sometimes that's not the best option. So having a clinician paired with a police officer allows us such a broader range of responses. And this isn't something that, I thought, hey, let's force this on the police department. This actually came from the employees. We have employees right now, police officers, working in patrol that they came to the police department wanting to be more involved in kind of a broader range of decision making. They want to solve problems. And so really the department was just more responsive to the employees that we're hiring. And that's why it's such a great accomplishment for the police department.
Okay. Anything else that you feel like would be, I guess before I ask that question, day one, right, July 1st, she makes the announcement, it becomes official. Do you sort of have a vision in terms of what that first day looks like?
I will be starting my day about an hour before the clock turns, because that's when mid-shift patrol starts. And so I'll be spending some time with them when they go to briefing. And I will spend the first day in a combination of meeting with employees throughout the department, as well as people from outside the department that I want to invest a lot of time in the relationships with and really kind of establish and build what that relationship is going to look like moving forward.
Okay. Anything else that you feel like would be important to mention that you want to make sure gets said that we didn't touch on?
I think we've covered it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, listen, thank you again. I really appreciate you making time like this.
Thank you for listening to this edition of In Depth Alaska. Please like and subscribe to this podcast.